Hi, thanks for joining me for this video. We are going to get into personality type and not specifically to any one assessment, but just the power of personality typing in general to understand where our love relationship can go. So personality types have been around for thousands of years. In actual fact, I think Hippocrates in 470 BC studied the body and identified 4 different kinds of categories based on different fluids. And thankfully we don't do that anymore, but this is here to stay. In 2012, over 70% of corporations used some sort of personality test to identify strengths and weaknesses with their employees. And it wasn't shortly thereafter when personality tests started coming into the dating space with the online explosion of dating apps. So in these dating apps, you can identify all of your different strengths and weaknesses, and depending on the assessment, they would give you your personality type. And they use this information in the dating app world to try to find compatibility or aligned values with different matches. And so the people that they send you for your list would be more likely to be a match for you. So personality assessments are really critical in terms of opening our eyes to who we are. Now, there are flaws with this, of course. Some people think they are fake because we self-select our own answers. So yes, there is a piece of this where I wish I were more brave, so I'm going to answer that I'm brave. That isn't necessarily a bad thing, because if you want to be more brave, chances are you're going to start developing ways to become more brave in your life. If you completely falsify it, then that's a totally other story. But for the most part, I think people do turn to personality tests for a number of key pieces of information. And research shows that we are looking for 3 things in particular. A study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology revealed the 3 major motives behind this hunger for our results include self-assessment and the pursuit of accurate self-knowledge, self-enhancement and the pursuit of positive self-knowledge, and self-verification, the pursuit of certain self-knowledge. And there's a director of the Media Psychology Research Center, Pamela Rutledge, who said, people are always curious to know more about themselves because they want confirmation of their qualities, particularly their strengths. In spite of the frivolity, we still have an existential craving to be seen and validated. And being seen and validated by our love partners are everything for us because they are the most important, most profound adult relationship we have. So we want to be seen by them, and we want to be seen in our strengths, right? We want them to recognize all of the great things. Now, when we're in love relationships, oftentimes we get into this situation where we point out their weaknesses or their flaws or their issues or their baggage, and we go down that path. And the problem is then, as a person who has all of her baggage and issues and flaws laid out and not enough of the strengths talked about, it feels like there's an imbalance. It feels like I'm not good enough. It feels like I'm not worthy of this love relationship. And so that is definitely a path to winter. So using personality tests, not necessarily to pigeonhole anybody in any kind of box, but to provide more insight not only about ourselves, but about our partner. In the book, I talk about this story in which one of the partners would get an idea, would see a flash on a magazine, or they would see a commercial, or they would see something, as they were scrolling through Instagram, and they're like, oh my gosh, we need to paint our living room a new color. I want it to be this deep royal, beautiful purple color. I want to paint this in this deep, rich color and then have our white furniture and it'll be beautiful. So let's go to the paint store. And the partner was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Painting, our walls are beige. Like, do you know how drastic it would be to go to a deep purple, like plum walls? Can we think about this? And the first partner's like, wait a minute. You don't like my idea? Like, you don't trust that I can make good decisions about, our space, and I would pick a bad color? And so the conversation evolves into this dark and nebulous place and actually devolves into conflict because one partner is a quick decision-making person, right? Is a quick start, is like, oh, I have an inspiration, I'm gonna follow it. And the other person needs time to process, needs time to think, needs time to decide, okay, is this a good time? How is the weather outside? Is it too damp to be painting? Where can we put all our furniture while we're painting? How long will it take? How many days of, how many coats every day we'll have to paint of this deep purple, because that will not take one coat for sure. Like, they're thinking all the things. They needed more time. So if partner one looks at their partner and says, wow, you don't trust me? You don't think I can do a good job? The other partner is really astonished and thinks, wait a minute here, you can't just have an idea and then upend our entire life to pursue your idea in this exact second. Like, that's unfair of you to shove your idea so fast into my life. I haven't even understood the process yet. So therein lies a winter storm that happens for this couple often in various ways. And so they really think they don't get each other, right? They really think they're not there for each other. They really think the other person never understands them. In actual fact, once they took their personality assessments and applied it into their love relationship, this became very clear that most of their conflict was about partner A having this big, beautiful, and magnificent idea, and partner B needing more time to process that idea. 99% of the time, partner B was on board with the idea, but he needed more time. He couldn't do it in the speed that partner A was able to do things. And sometimes that's a really great thing, right? We have an ability to sit back and say, okay, what are all the contingencies in my life? If I paint this, what does that mean for A, B, and C? What does it mean? Maybe there's a coupon coming out next week in celebration of Black Friday. So maybe we want to wait a week and buy the paint on sale. Or maybe there's, a visit coming from our parents and we don't want the house to have paint smell while they're here. So why don't we wait a couple of weeks? All of these things are true and valid, but partner A really felt unheard and uncelebrated and kind of shut down for her idea to want to paint the room. So it really came down to personality, and understanding each other's personalities meant it wasn't personal, right? It's not personal that your partner wants to take more time to think about something. It really is the way they process things. And so now this couple will not behave this way anymore. When partner A has an idea, she will write it out and she'll say, here, I want to talk about this. When might be a good time? Because I really have this great idea and here's a picture and here's my inspiration and I'm so excited. But I want to give you some time to think about it. So when we come together and talk about it, we can both be excited. Right? And so her partner is like, yeah, you know what? Why don't we talk tomorrow after lunch? I have, an opening in my calendar during the week because they work. Why don't you, kind of bring these papers back tomorrow and let's really talk about it. I want to be excited like you, but thank you for the time for me to think about it on my own, in my own way. And so that doesn't always work. Of course, sometimes the idea jumps out. But then he also recognizes that's not my partner trying to push her agenda on me. That's just her excitability because she wants to get it done because she's a quick start, right? So when we understand personality, really, it's one of those game-changing things. And I want you to apply the personality type that you might have done. There's assessments all over the internet. So I don't have any assessments in my books because it doesn't actually matter to me which one you use. Some people use Myers-Briggs and they're like, I'm an introvert, I'm sensing, I'm intuitive, and they have their 4-letter categories. Great. Some people use the DISC assessment, which was more of a corporate tool, but is now being applied in relationship studies all the time. Maybe you are into Enneagram and some of the other models of personality typing. Maybe you're into numerology or zodiac, right? There's many different ways that we can get assessments. And What the point of it is to kind of see what fits you, right? If you are this category in this assessment, does it speak to who you are? Does it explain your behavior? Does it kind of give you the words to make normal your experiences, right? Because if you are an extrovert with an introvert, the extrovert might think there's something wrong with the introvert who never wants to go outside and go to the festivals and go to the music shows and go to the concerts and go hang out with a big group of friends. They might think there's something wrong with this. But in actual fact, big crowds overwhelms that person, and a lot of noise is too stimulating. And so they are introverted, and they might go for a short period, but they aren't able to draw their energy from the crowd. When they're in a big crowd, they actually lose energy and they start to deplete. So knowing this now, the extrovert and the introvert can go to the festival, spend an hour there, they can kiss, introvert can come home, extrovert can stay with friends, and then when they come home at the end of the night, everybody has gotten their needs met. So there may be times where you need to do very different things, and that's okay. Remember, we have individual gardens and a shared garden. So the personality type is really on you to pick the style and the assessment that works for you, that fits what you want to know, that gives you the words you want to hear, that helps explain who you are. It doesn't say that's who you are and that's who you'll always be and you cannot be anything else. That's not true. I don't think that. I think that every single category of every single assessment has a spectrum, and you can move along the spectrum. So if you are an introvert or, an extrovert, for example, you can be more extroverted or less extroverted and still be on that spectrum. I am an introvert. I can be very extroverted when I need to be, but in essence, I'm an introvert. But I can move along that spectrum if I need to be more extroverted or if I'm able to be more introverted and actually be kind of reclusive. Right? I can move around my own category. So it isn't a set in stone, you are one thing, but it does help explain some things, especially if it's a processing thing of somebody who wants to do something very spontaneous and adventurous and quick and really just energized, and somebody else who is a little bit more cautious or held back or contemplative about the whole thing. I often see people having conflict in that space because they think they're trying to sabotage the person's happiness, the partner's happiness, and that's not actually true. The personality assessment shows very clearly, oh, one person has this personality and one person has that. It's just like temperament. Are you a glass half full or a glass half empty kind of person? You can always adjust it, but it does kind of give you a baseline of where you start. And that's what personality assessments do. So I don't have any work for you here. I want you to go and find an assessment, or if you already have taken one, write down what your category is, what is your result of your assessment, and then share it with your partner, right? Tell them what it is, how it is, what you see in it, if it really fits who you are, right? I have taken assessments sometime and I think, ooh, yeah, actually that's not who I am. I know that I tested this way and maybe the questions were a little bit strangely worded, or maybe I misinterpreted what the intention behind the question, but when I read the result, I'm like, that's not me at all. I'm not that person, right? So you can also challenge your results and say, yeah, this says that I'm this, but I'm actually not. I'm a little bit more this. Your personality, your decision, your choice of what you accept and what you reject in terms of the explanation. But it does give a great starting point to have understanding and compassion between two people who might have conflict repeated and in a pattern that they can't understand, right? It might be as simple as, oh, I didn't even realize that. Okay, now that you point it out, it's super obvious. But before you pointed it out, it didn't occur to me that that was how it was. Okay, I shifted the kaleidoscope. My whole world looks different now that I know That's just who you are. Okay, we can go with that. Anyways, fill out the part on the worksheet, which just talks about your results. So pick whatever test you want and come back and share with your partner and say what worked, what fits you, and what didn't really fit you. But share with each other so that you can start to kind of expand on your self-awareness and your mutual awareness of each other. I will see you in the next video. Thank you for joining me. Take care.